morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Letitia Obeng, and I'm the current chair of the Supervisory Board of the Water Integrity Network. And I'd like to welcome you to this session where we are going to launch the Water Integrity Global Outlook Report 2021, Urban Water and Sanitation. It's a real pleasure to have you join us, and I'm hoping that you will enjoy the presentations by our speakers. And there's also a question and answer time at the end, so please stay and participate in that. Before we begin, I'd like to just make a little presentation about
Letitia, just unmute yourself. Sorry, you're on mute for some reason.
Yes, I didn't mute myself. It said I was muted. There is Spanish and French translation available for this session, and you can access that through the Interacto app on your smartphone. The instructions on how to do this are in the chat box. So please do go and find out about how to listen to French or Spanish translation. So let's begin. Our first speaker is Barbara Schreiner, and Barbara is the Executive Director of the Water Integrity Network. She has over 25 years experience in water management in developing countries with a focus on good governance, addressing poverty, inequality, gender, and other forms of social and economic marginalization. Barbara has worked in senior management in the public sector in South Africa, including as a ministerial advisor and in the NGO sector. She's also worked as a consultant and has served on a number of boards internationally as well as in South Africa. And Barbara has also written extensively on issues of water governance. Barbara is going to introduce us to WIGO, Water Integrity Global Outlook 2021, Urban Water and Sanitation. Barbara.
Thank you very much, Letitia, for that and for that welcome. And thank you to everybody who is participating here this afternoon. It gives me great delight to be able to present. Can I just please ask everybody who is not speaking to mute themselves? We're getting some background information noise coming through, so if everybody can just mute themselves, please. So it's my pleasure this afternoon to present to you the Global Water Integrity Global Outlook 2021, as Letitia said. In 2016, the Water Integrity Network produced the Water Integrity Global Outlook, the first one, which explored the whole issue of corruption in water and sanitation and proposed various routes to integrity. WIGO 2021 updates this work, but has a specific focus on urban water and sanitation. And if we look at WIGO 2021, it is a solution-oriented report. We're trying to find ways that we can actually practically improve integrity and reduce corruption and integrity failures in the water and sanitation sector. So it's divided into 4 parts. It looks at why is integrity important. It looks then in part 2 at what are we seeing around corruption and integrity failures in urban water and sanitation. What are the drivers? How is it manifesting in terms of corruption in the management of public resources, corruption at the community institution interface, or what's often called petty corruption, and then integrity failures in relation to equity and development, with a particular focus on informal settlements. And that's a strong focus of the report. And then in part 3, we come to the positive side of things. We come to the thing of saying, so what can be done to advance integrity, whether it's at the city level or for national governments, for sector regulators, for utilities, for international funders and agencies, for residents, civil society, and the media. And that's very practical and drawn on experience from around the world of what people have done, what they are doing that has actually improved integrity. And then part 4 ends with a call to action, basically saying, guys, if we want to actually make a difference, if we want to reach the SDGs, the whole issue of integrity is something that we actually cannot avoid. We have to take it on. We have to improve integrity. If we're looking at the situation, why are we talking about, why have we focused on urban areas? And the reality is that the urban population is growing enormously across the world. In 1980, it was well below 50%. Currently, in 2018, 55% of the world population lives in cities. By 2050, can you please put your mute on? Thank you. By 2050, we're looking at about 68%, two-thirds of the world population will be living in cities, and some of those cities are going to be absolutely enormous. At the same time, within those cities, that we're looking at the number of people living in informal settlements growing exponentially. 1 billion in 2018, estimated at 2 billion living in informal settlements by 2050. And as we know, those are the most marginalized communities and the ones that have the worst experience in cities of access to water and sanitation. And then why focus on corruption and integrity when there's all sorts of other things that we need to focus on? If we look at purely the financial cost of corruption, you'll see in WeGo 2021, when you read the report, which obviously you're going to do, that it's very hard to put numbers to the cost of corruption. But from the experience that we have, we're saying between 4 and 26% from the studies that have been done. In some areas, definitely more than that. If you look at the annual capital cost to meet SDG 6.1 and 6.2, and that's not the other costs in the water sector, and it's not operational maintenance costs, purely the capital cost. If you're looking at the estimates are that that's $114 billion per year required to meet SDGs 6.1 and 6.2. 4% of that is $4.5 billion a year. 26% of that is $30 billion a year lost to corruption. That's a chunk of change in the costs that we're looking at and how we're going to meet SDG 6.1 and 6.2. But the reality is that the financial costs are only part of the cost. What we're actually seeing as a result of corruption and integrity failures is poor quality, delayed or missing infrastructure that actually doesn't even get built, with resulting poor health and mortality, particularly for poor and marginalized communities, loss of economic productivity, both as a result of health, but also as a result of interrupted or poor water supplies, a lack of trust between water users and government, and the cost of that is immeasurable, environmental costs, and quite possibly maladaptation to climate change as a result of corruption and how decisions are being made, and the cost of that again. So the real costs are fundamentally bigger than the financial costs that we talk about so often. So just very quickly, a couple of case studies around corruption in the water and sanitation sector. In 2013, the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power introduced a new water billing system. Many residents, as a result, received inaccurate or delayed water bills, and some of them were massively inflated. This being America, a class action lawsuit followed, and there was a settlement made in 2017 in which the city committed to repay $67 million to customers. Unfortunately, what it turned out is the two key lawyers in the case had been working for both sides, the city and the class action plaintiffs. And there were allegations that, in fact, the city had deliberately engineered the situation in order to get a more favorable settlement. So then there was a new lawsuit in which the city was charged with attempting to cover up the collusion in the 2017, amongst other things, by conducting a fraudulent review, which cost water users $176,000. The allegations were that the 2017 settlement entailed a non-competitive award of contracts to companies associated with one of the lawyers, and possible crimes including bribery, kickbacks, extortion, mail fraud, and money laundering. It's a mess. And as you can imagine, ongoing legal issues around this within the American law system at the moment. If we look at a completely different aspect of corruption and integrity challenges in the water and sanitation sector, in Nairobi, for years, informal settlements have been facing a situation where water supply is controlled in many areas by cartels, where informal water supply operators who obtain water from boreholes, illegal connections to the main supply, or water kiosks, sell water at per litre prices much higher than the utilities piped water price, meaning that the poorest of the poor are paying much more for their water than wealthier residents. There's widespread suspicion that there may be lower level public employees involved in this. And there are two major integrity gaps that we're seeing here. The one is the failure of the formal provision to take care of providing decent services to informal settlements. The other is a failure to regulate and control the supply of water by cartels and by informal providers in terms of both quality and reliability. I must say at this point that WASREB, the regulator in Nairobi, is actually looking at what is a complex issue around how you regulate non-utility and small providers, and are doing some quite interesting work around that. And then a third issue that I wanted to pick up that is talked about in WEGO is the whole vexed question of sex for water or sextortion. What we are seeing is that all around the world, in poor communities, women are actually paying for water with their bodies. And I must just say, that women are paying for what is a human right with their bodies, and it is utterly unacceptable. There's been work done in various places by ANU, by SIWI. We are currently doing further research in Bangladesh on the issue. Comment from a woman in Johannesburg: if I don't have money to bribe the water utility staff, he will sexually abuse me because that's the only valuable thing I can give him. Men want from Bogota, men want sexual favors to deliver water, and this is a form of corruption. Women, because of their vulnerability and inability to walk long distances to get water, also give in to men's demands in exchange for water. And just to say that this falls between the cracks in many ways, because it's often not recognized as a form of corruption, and it's equally not really recognized as a form of gender-based violence. And it's something that we need to speak out about and really address, because it is a very real and serious problem. So, on the more positive side, improved integrity is clearly needed, but it also is possible, and that's something that we want to stress. It is possible, it can be done. So, and I'm probably running out of time at this stage. KWASA, the Khulna Water Supply and Sewage Authority in Bangladesh, in 2015 launched an integrity change process where they used WIN's integrity management toolbox and InWash tool, as a result of which they are now operating with more transparency, accountability, and participation. They have seen changes in their management processes. They've seen reductions in delay between water connection requests and actually connection. They've seen a digitalization of billing, improvements in billing delivery. They've seen the regularization of unmetered connections and the introduction of an e-procurement system. They've seen reduced opportunities for corruption at high and low levels within the utility, and all of this has contributed to their revenue generation and their business viability. And Mohammed Abdullah, the managing director of KWASA at Stockholm Water Week in 2016, said, to start with, we have encountered some difficulties because the people involved with their unethical practices, naturally, they did not want that we should be successful in implementing this integrity change process. But due to strong commitment and strong steps, we have taken so many measures to combat unethical practices so that gradually we will be reaching towards full achievement. Another aspect that comes out of WEGO that shows the change is possible, but also looking at the whole aspect of being able to measure where one stands. We have developed a tool called WIRI, the Water and Sanitation Integrity Risk Index. We know that integrity is critical for tackling corruption and advancing integrity. We need to understand the baseline, and we need to be able to track changes against that baseline. WIRI has been designed for use at the city level, and it provides an objective measure of corruption risk in the urban and water sanitations structured around three areas: investment risk, operational risk, and client utility interaction risk. Ratings in each of these areas are combined to create a composite WIRI score for the city. It allows the risk levels to be compared between cities and over time. And the graphs on the left are actually where WIRI has been applied in various cities over time. And you will see how the corruption risk or the integrity risk has changed over time in those cities. Just to note that where the graph goes up, that's actually an improvement. It's a reduction in the integrity risk, so an improvement in integrity in those cities over time. And you can read more about that in the WeGo report when you read the whole thing. The last thing I want to mention here is the issue of open procurement, which is a critical aspect of improving integrity. The UN Convention Against Corruption, Article 9, says that member states should establish appropriate procurement systems based on transparency, competition, and objective criteria to prevent corruption. The OECD has produced guidelines and assessment tools on open procurement. Open Contracting Partnership promotes e-procurement practices that include a format for data sharing called the Open Contracting Data Standard. And for example, Zambia's Public Procurement Authority website has a list of tenders published according to the OCDS. In Ukraine, the civil society, private sector, and government reformers worked together to develop what is prozoro.org procurement system, which is based on the OCDS. And the program, the implementation of this program brought savings of around 12% in public procurement, thousands of new businesses being able to compete for contracts, 80% of government contracts going to SMMEs, because small and medium enterprises, because of the opening up of the system and the ease with which people could interact with it, and very critically, the reduction in the perception of corruption by 50%. So why do we choose integrity? Building integrity can address the root causes, some of the root causes of failures in water and sanitation service provision, and help to make sure that we leave no one behind. It can reduce unaffordable and unacceptable impacts of water and sanitation corruption and mismanagement on city residents' health, safety, and well-being. It can help to improve service delivery and ensure resources are used more fairly and effectively. Critically, it can build trust among residents, governments, and institutions, and provide a bedrock to boost attractiveness, sustainability, security, trade, and tourism. So, make a difference for your city. This is the call that comes out of the Water Integrity Global Outlook 2021. Make a difference for your city, become an integrity champion. It's time to clean up water and sanitation in our cities. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you for the teaser and the examples that you've given us. I know that there are many more and many suggestions and opportunities for maintaining integrity, building integrity, and ensuring that we indeed leave no one behind because of problems of corruption. Please go look at the document and search through it and find the gems that are there. And hopefully they will help you to make sure that in your urban water supply and sanitation work that you can help to build integrity and help us leave no one behind. Our next presenter is Mayor Tunç Sawyer, who is mayor of Izmir, which is Turkey's third largest city. Mayor Sawyer previously served as the mayor of Seferihisar, a coastal district of Izmir. He's a member of the ICLEI Global Executive Committee in charge of the climate action and low emission development portfolio. He's also a member of the Executive Bureau in the Congress of Local and Regional Authorities of the Council of Europe, president of the International Network of CITASLO, and a member of the UCLG Executive Bureau and World Council, and also president of the Association of Social Democratic Municipalities in Turkey. Let's hear from the mayor.
Honored guests, partners, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tunç Sawyer, the mayor of Izmir Metropolitan Municipality. Izmir is in the Aegean coast and has a population of about 5 million people. We recognize that water will be the defining resource in our urban future and that local governments have a critical role to play in the achievement of SDG 6. Increasingly, both local and national governments are recognizing the importance of water for ecosystem health and functioning. The link to livelihoods, human development, and critically, the role of access to potable water for hygiene in the midst of the COVID pandemic. For each of these aspects, local and subnational governments are at the core of the issue. It is therefore particularly important for local government to implement more efficient water management practices. We face many challenges in water and sanitation sectors, with governance issues becoming more complex with increased urbanization, resulting in the call for improved coordination, transparency, and accountability. However, by building integrity at the local level, we can provide better services to our residents and build resilience at the local level. I would like to share with you some examples of how we are building integrity for water at the local level. This year, on March 22 and 23rd, 11 metropolitan municipalities, which make up more than half of the population of Turkey, met in Izmir and held a very important meeting entitled Sustainable Water Policies in Cities Summit, in order to reduce the effects of the climate crisis on water resources. At this meeting, we shared a manifesto with 5 fundamental and inclusive changes that should be made in water management policies in our country. Under the banner, an alternative water management model is possible. The 5 principles of fundamental changes required are creating a participatory water management model, managing the demand, not the supply, integrating water investments at the basin scale, protecting the natural water cycle, and ensuring that the use of wastewater in our cities, which is now considered as a water resource, is based on circular use for industry, agriculture, and green infrastructures. In line with these 5 principal changes, we determined 10 concrete implementation steps. The fundamental concrete implementation steps were designed to improve governance, accountability, coordination, and integrity for water management. It further calls for a water law to be enacted through stakeholder consultation processes, ensuring that local administrations have authority to develop and implement plans at water basin level. Building on the vision of our commitment in this water manifesto, I organized a study tour in the Gediz Basin, a part of which is within the borders of our city, with a total size of approximately 17,000 kilometers square, in order to draw attention to the pollution in our water resources. The Gediz River was bringing significant pollution to our water resources and the Gulf of Izmir. For this reason, we made this study tour to prevent pollution at the source, at a basin level, and to draw attention to these sources of pollution. Through the tour, we were able to identify the measures that needed to be taken on site and to produce solutions together with the farmers living in the basin, agricultural organizations, industrialists, and non-governmental organizations by working together, identifying our respective responsibilities within Izmir Metropolitan Municipality. This successful study tour created serious awarenesses that the pollution in our water resources has reached an unsustainable point. Moving forward, we are taking important steps to play a more active role and take responsibility for the measures to be implemented to prevent the contamination of our water resources. By adopting multi-stakeholder approaches, we are therefore able to define responsibilities for addressing challenges such as pollution in our region, foster transparency and accountability in addressing such challenges, and foster improved governance not only with the metropolitan area, but within the basin as a whole. I thank you.
Indeed, Mayor Sawyer has shown us through his work what can be done at city level. And indeed, in 2018, he was awarded the Transparent Governance Award by the International Transparency Association for the municipal policies on accountability and participation that he has established. So thank you for your example that you've shown us all, Mayor Sawyer. Our next presenter is from another part of the world. Juan Carlos Fuentes is the head of the Regulation Department of the National Water Regulator of Honduras. Juan Carlos is a civil engineer with a master's in finance. He's a specialist in the regulation of public water and sanitation services with extensive experience in providing technical assistance to operators of potable water and sanitation services in design and formulation of tariffs and the implementation of good practices in commercial, financial, and accounting management. He also has extensive experience in the evaluation of service provision, in the formulation of diagnostics of water and sanitation systems, and in the supervision, design, budget formulation, and construction of housing projects, apartment buildings, and civil works in general. Juan Carlos Fuentes, let's hear from you.
En Honduras operan dos prestadores metropolitanos, en la ciudad capital Tegucigalpa y en San Pedro Sula, la segunda ciudad del país. 20 prestadores operan en ciudades mayores de 30.000 habitantes y 250 prestadores en el resto de cascos urbanos del país. Además, se estima que operan alrededor de 10.000 puntas de agua que atienden las localidades rurales y periurbanas del país, de las cuales apenas un 25% están legalizadas para operar. El numeroso universo de prestadores de servicio genera problemas para ejercer una eficiente regulación y control de los servicios, requiriéndose una adecuada coordinación a nivel de la institucionalidad del sector para promover la eficiencia y la transparencia en la prestación de los servicios. Sobre los problemas de integridad, hemos tenido que lidiar con los casos siguientes. El clientelismo político de los gobiernos municipales en la gestión de los servicios, principalmente en la aprobación de tarifas y la adopción del modelo de gestión del prestador urbano, los cuales se ven limitados en su autonomía financiera, administrativa y operativa. Lograr que los prestadores de servicios presenten información regulatoria de acuerdo con los requerimientos del regulador en cuanto a la periodicidad y los formatos. El monitoreo de la calidad del agua. En localidades urbanas hemos tenido casos de prestadores de servicios que seleccionan a su conveniencia los sitios de muestreo de la calidad del agua para obtener resultados favorables. En localidades rurales, muchos prestadores desinfectan el agua que brindan a los usuarios solo cuando van a realizar los análisis de calidad. La legalización y autorización de los prestadores de servicio que operan en localidades rurales y periurbanas que usualmente están a cargo de prestadores comunitarios denominadas juntas administradoras de agua. La gestión financiera de las juntas de agua, en casos donde los ahorros del prestador están a nombre de directivos o de particulares y no a nombre de la organización, representa un riesgo de malversación de fondos. Controlar el periodo de vigencia de los directivos de las juntas de agua para propiciar la participación de todos los usuarios. Además, usuarios poco colaborativos que desconocen sus obligaciones pero reclaman sus derechos. Sobre los beneficios que hemos visto al abordar los problemas de integridad, podemos enumerar los siguientes. Al ser capacitados por la Red de Integridad del Agua en la implementación de la caja de herramientas para la integridad del agua, nos permitió abordar algunos problemas de integridad presentes en el sector de agua y saneamiento, teniendo los siguientes resultados. Se ha logrado avanzar en la legalización de más de 500 juntas de agua. El ERSAP ha contribuido con la gestión de la personalidad jurídica para estas juntas de agua, las cuales ahora pueden registrar sus activos a nombre de la organización, minimizando el riesgo de malversación de fondos. También se ha contribuido con la creación de más de 20 prestadores de servicios urbanos basados en modelos de gestión y estatutos de constitución con autonomía administrativa, financiera y operativa, que propicia la incorporación de representantes de la sociedad civil en la junta directiva del prestador, lo cual ha sido de gran importancia para garantizar el balance de poder en la toma de decisiones. Con la aprobación de la metodología de cálculo de tarifas, se ha logrado facilitar el proceso de ajuste de tarifas, lo que ha contribuido que varios prestadores de servicio alcancen su punto de equilibrio entre sus costos operativos y sus ingresos. Además, se está trabajando en la implementación de la contabilidad regulatoria con los prestadores urbanos para que estos apliquen un plan único de cuentas en sus sistemas contables a fin de homologar y estandarizar la presentación de los estados financieros y reportes regulatorios. Otro hito importante es la presentación de informes anuales y estados financieros de unas 1,000 juntas administradoras de agua, actividad que se viene realizando desde el año 2018, lo cual nos ha permitido conocer sobre la situación de los servicios en las localidades atendidas por estas juntas. El ERSAP también ha desarrollado un sistema de información gerencial que facilita la gestión administrativa, comercial y contable para que los prestadores puedan facturar los servicios, realizar los registros contables y elaborar sus estados financieros de manera automatizada y segura. Dicho software se proporciona a los prestadores de manera gratuita. Lecciones y consejos para otros reguladores sobre cómo abordar los problemas de integridad a través de la regulación. Promover los mecanismos de participación ciudadana en los diversos ámbitos de la prestación de los servicios, tanto en la integración de la junta directiva de los prestadores de servicios como en los procesos de fiscalización y control de los mismos, lo que llamamos veeduría ciudadana. Implementar instrumentos regulatorios que promuevan la transparencia y rendición de cuentas por parte de los prestadores de servicios. En la medida de lo posible, validar la información presentada por los prestadores de servicios ante las organizaciones de veeduría ciudadana establecidas a nivel local. Hacer pública la información presentada por los prestadores en los diferentes canales oficiales de comunicación establecidos por el regulador. Realizar ferias de usuario a nivel local para orientarlos sobre sus derechos y obligaciones, así como el establecimiento de canales que permitan una comunicación oportuna con los usuarios. Adoptar la metodología de gestión para la integridad del agua, caja de herramientas promovida por la Red de Integridad del Agua. El informe global es de gran utilidad para las instituciones del sector de agua y saneamiento. Las recomendaciones planteadas en el informe representan una guía para abordar la problemática que provoca la falta de integridad en la gestión de los servicios de agua y saneamiento. En ERSAPS nos esforzaremos en promover la construcción de los 4 muros de integridad recomendados en el informe, mediante la implementación de la caja de herramientas para la gestión de la integridad en un número progresivo de prestadores urbanos, suscribiendo acuerdos de mejoramiento para darle seguimiento formal a los compromisos.
Thank you so much, Juan Carlos. Indeed, it's really great that you can get citizens' oversight and therefore increase transparency in the work of the service providers. Our final speaker is Tim Ndezi, and Tim is a development engineer with civil and water engineering background and a vast experience in working in a participatory way with poor communities in both rural and urban informal settlements in Tanzania. He has worked extensively with women on water and sanitation issues, and he's also worked on urban risks and resilience, housing and shelter. He's the founding director of the Center for Community Initiatives, an NGO in Tanzania, affiliated to Shack Dwellers International. Center for Community Initiatives is committed to helping poor communities and particularly women living in urban informal settlements and rural settings by providing support to community initiatives. Through his work with CCI, Tim has pioneered a number of urban research and technological innovations and practice on sanitation, including the implementation of ecological sanitation. And Tim is going to talk about his experience in integrity and participation in sanitation in informal settlements in Tanzania. So we've gone around the world quite a bit. Tim.
My name is Tim Daisy. I am the director of the organization called Center for Community Initiatives, or we call CCI, based in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. CCI is affiliated to Shack Dwellers International, SDI, and I'm based in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. I'm here to present to you a project that CCI, in collaboration with Tanzania Urban Poor Community, have been able to conduct in one settlement called Mji Mpya, in the ward called Nyamani in Ilala municipality in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. In this particular project, I'm going to describe to you how the urban poor community were able to address sanitation challenges which they have been facing for many, many years. Nyamani, as one of the informal settlements, is having approximate about 10,000 people who have not been able to have the proper sanitary solution within their neighborhood. The only sanitation solution they used to have is the pit latrines, which were not really very friendly to their hygiene, even to their health as well. In that particular project, we as urban poor communities were able to convince and motivate the utility to connect the sanitation solution using simplified sewerage connections, whereby community now can be able to bring their fecal matters to the waste ponds, which are being located within the neighborhood. And for many years, the utility had not been able to consider provision of proper sewerage connection to the urban poor communities until when this project was brought up to their attention. So what the urban poor communities, with in collaboration with CCI did, we organized series of meetings to convince the utility and motivate them that a provision of a simplified solution would really provide a proper participation of the utility to address the needs of the urban poor. In this particular regard, the frequent meetings that we had together with the utility was able to provide space for the urban poor to be able to explain and discuss about their challenges, and also be able to debate about the tariff mechanisms, to also be able to debate about a number of interventions. So at the end of this negotiation of meetings, utility was able to provide simplified sewage connection and improvement of toilets to more than 200 households within the neighborhood. In addition, the utility was able to lower down the tariff that was initially set at a much higher rate than what the community was able to afford. So all this process was able to provide transparency and participation of the utility together with the urban poor to solve the sanitation problems. So we are very grateful at the moment that now the utility, which is DAWASA in Dar es Salaam, is now able to scale up the simplified sewerage sanitation solution, which was set as a pilot, but now DAWASA is able to scale up to many other areas. So thank you very much for listening about this story of the simplified sewerage solution from Tanzania, as well as in the interaction of the urban poor and DAWASA, the utility, in solving the sanitation problem in our city. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Tim. So we've heard from Turkey, from Honduras, and from Tanzania, and we've got had an introduction to the WIGO 2021. We now have the opportunity to ask questions of our speakers and others who are present in this session. And I'm going to introduce Serene Malik, who is going to facilitate this question and answer session. And Serene leads the African Civil Society Network on Water, ANU, which is the umbrella organization of water and sanitation NGOs in Africa, present in over 50 countries. She's also the vice chair of Sanitation and Water for All, and has over 50 years of experience in the field of water governance and restructuring WASH NGOs. Serene also focuses on working with NGOs to meaningfully engage in the water and anti-corruption sector, mobilizing voices around the call to action that good water governance is key to improve sector performance. Serene is a lawyer by profession, has widely published and supported the development of sector governance tools for state and non-state actors. So Serene, over to you.
Thank you very much, Leticia. Can everybody hear me clearly? So we're going straight into the question and answer session. So please do go ahead and put those in the chat. I'm seeing some have already started coming in, but first a big thank you to Barbara, to Mayor Sawyer, Tim, and to Juan for those excellent presentations as backdrop to the WeGo launch today. Tim, I know we're looking for you over here, so I hope you are, if you are, please do rename yourself, because I'm seeing there is a question for you. So we'll move in reverse while we wait for the others to start posting a bit of their questions. Tim, are you there? Just a quick.
Yes, I'm around here.
All right, excellent, excellent. Thank you so much, Tim, for that presentation. So you do have a question in terms of, could you share more about how the process went to bring the community members and the utilities and the utility companies together, and what led to the success of this pilot, but also in terms of what was the role of CCI?
All right, thank you very much for really listening to the presentation, as well for this question. Number one, CCI as an NGO, it has a role of mobilization and facilitation of the community, as we really understand that sometimes the community don't have the voice, and sometimes they are not able actually to interact with the utility. So we as CCI, we had been able to provide intermediation role and also a facilitator and capacity building as well. So the whole process, the way how it started by when we found the needs, we created a dialogue place, a space where community and the utility could sit down together to discuss the problem. And the issue started because within the neighborhood, that the utility had constructed the west ponds. So the local community had been enjoying only the smell from the ponds without actually getting any benefit at all. So in a way, it was really not really a friendly environment. So they were just enjoying the smell, but the toilet, they used the pit latrine. So it started with that kind of arena. So the meetings and the dialogue created an opportunity where the community could voice up their rights to be connected with the simplified sewerage, and they got it. Right now they enjoy, and the relationship between the utility and the community has been strengthened, in brief.
Thank you very much, Tim. And I think definitely a model that should be widely disseminated and shared within the global community in terms of the work that has been done. All right, we do have a question from Darren Headley for Honduras. And Alejandro, I do invite you to answer that question. So interesting model of the Juntas de Agua. Have you seen any similar models in other countries? And how did this become established in Honduras? Really interesting to see how they managed to devolve the regulatory authorities in the country. So Alejandro, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Serene, and thank you for the question. Actually, the role of Juntas de Agua in it's something that is also widespread in other countries of the subregion of Central America and also in Latin America in general. I think what brings this case, which we were supporting together with WIN and was in the consortium, is how to bring from the informality to establishing a sound process for first registration of the water juntas de agua, so that they become formalized. I think he was mentioning a very important point, Juan Carlos, about the assets being then in the name of the junta and not on particular people, because if you don't have a legal entity, then only those can be ascribed to people. Then the aspect of making them, supporting them for financial control. He mentioned the software that was developed and is given free of charge for them, as well as the annual reports. So I think this helps to, and this provides a very good example that could be applied in many other countries that have a high degree of community-based water supply that often does not have sufficient policy and legal provisions to work in a, let's say, more professional way, as well as then to be within the accountability and regulatory system, right? So I think that is something that can be widely applied in other places. We hope for that.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Alejandro. Barbara, a question has come into you, and I know one that you have been asked before on numerous occasions, is how does WIN intend to get WIGO in front of the right people? Is it going to be a global virtual roadshow, partnerships with other organizations who have access to these audiences, and how can audiences help? But also an additional question leading to that, Barbara, what next? And what next for WIGO 2024?
Okay, thanks very much, Serene. So yes, I mean, we've launched the report today, but that's just the beginning of the process. Not only do we want people to read it, but we very seriously want people to take action based on what is in the report. And just to say that there is a full report, which is over 200 pages, and then there is an executive summary that is designed to be much more interactive, so people can engage with the summary, and it'll take them into big report if they want to access more detail on a particular topic. And it has been designed to enable people who want to look at the regulatory side of things or the utility side of things to be able to get into it quite easily without having to plow through the entire report. We are certainly planning an advocacy campaign around it, we are a network organization. So obviously we will be working with our partners who do have access to different audiences and trying to get it out as much as possible through that. We would be very happy to run information sessions, webinars, discussion sessions, even training sessions for any organizations that are interested. So in terms of the question from the, how can the audience that are here with us today, how can you assist? Obviously, we'd be very happy that you simply inform people that this report exists and that it's important and that it contains a lot of very useful information. But equally, if you want seminars, webinars, training sessions, please just get in contact with us and let's see what we can actually put together in order to take it forward. It is an absolutely critical issue. Very quickly, in terms of WIGO 2024, because we're planning as an come out every 3 years. WIGO 2024 is going to be focused on the issue of integrity and finance in the water and sanitation sectors. And again, to anybody who's in this audience, if you have a particular interest in that and you would like to contribute in some way, please just get hold of us and let us know.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. I will come back to Pilar's question, but maybe just to hear from Tim. How are women and marginalized groups included in these interventions?
Yeah, it's me. Thank you very much for the question. I think, as a matter of fact, in most cases, in all our informal settlement, women are the ones that are struggling all the way actually to fetch water and also do a lot of activities, even for the toilet. When the toilets are becoming full, I think the embarrassment for women actually to use toilet is much, much more very tense, particularly for diseases like UTI and many, many things like that. So because of that, the women were in the forefront actually to get involved into the negotiation and all the meetings. So even the group that is managing the simplified sewerage within the area, most of the leaders are women actually, and we work together with women empowerment, because we know that once women are on the driving seat, it means the sustainability of the initiative is going to be attained. So women are very much involved in the whole process.
Excellent. Thank you, Tim. I think more than in the driving seat in the case of Tanzania with Her Excellency Samia Suluhu.
Absolutely, absolutely. We have Samia, yes.
Running the show. So
running the show, yes, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Alejandro, I know Pilar had a question on the use of these performance integrity performance indicators. Not many really subscribe to it. How do we increase that appetite, and how, what would be some of the useful experiences that we have? And I also invite Barbara as well to chip in on that one. Over to you, Alejandro.
Yeah, thank you, Serene, and thank you for the question. I think actually one of the next steps now with the regulator in Honduras that we have been part of as well is helping them to analyze how they could integrate some indicators related to integrity, to then ask the service providers, the operators, to report on them, right? So this has been a process of analyzing potential indicators. They have been selecting them, and now next stage, and approving them. Next stage is to start piloting that with some operators, so that we start seeing the results back, and more importantly, how we can then extend that practice. Because of course, regulators can have a potential impact in the sector if they are able to spread some indicators and some practices, indicators as a mean towards some practices that that apply to many operators in a certain territory or country.
Okay, thank you, Alejandro. Barbara, maybe something you'd like to add on that?
Oh, just very quickly to say that certainly the regulator in Kenya, WASREB, has also been looking at this whole question of integrity, and how they, as a regulator, bring in the issue of integrity and integrity indicators into the work that they're doing. And to also say that ESOWAS, which is the Eastern and Southern African Association of Water Regulators, is also looking at the issue. And then to say that in terms of the in-wash tool, which we have developed with SIWI and SIWAS, there is an assessment part of that, and which looks at a whole lot of integrity indicators. And we are currently working with Aquarating, who are looking at adding to and this is for utilities specifically, but looking at adding integrity indicators to the stuff that they had previously around performance indicators. So I think there's some stuff picking up there.
Yeah. Barbara, I know very quickly, one last question. This is from Cindy, who asks, what would you recommend to professionals that want to bring to the surface such situations, such as the one she showcased in a country where institutions, including utilities, were highly politicized?
You know, it's a very difficult question because it's got to depend on the context. I'm not going to sit here from the comfort of Berlin and recommend that people take actions that are going to put their lives in danger. Although there are people all over the world who do that, it means so much to them to blow the whistle on something that they do blow the whistle, even where there are threats involved. I mean, I think it depends on what options are open. I think the media can be extremely useful. Social media can be extremely useful. If there are whistleblowing platforms, they can be useful. But yes, raising the issue of corruption can be difficult and dangerous, and one needs to take into account what the conditions are that pertain, and find out what the routes are that are open. Sometimes it might mean going to a media even outside the country to get the issue raised and onto the agenda. I think there are a number of options that one can look at.
Thank you very much, Barbara. Thank you so much to our panelists for responding to those quick fire questions. I'm sure we would need a whole day to go through it, but without further ado, Alejandro, I'm handing over to you for our closing remarks. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Serene. And from my side, I would just like to emphasize that here with the Uyghur report, we have a call for action, no? And an opportunity for each of us to see, depending on where do we work, what do we represent. There are chapters for utilities, for municipalities, for the national government, for the citizens, of course, NGOs, international donors. So there is a place for everyone in the fight against corruption. And the other thing I would like to say is that we have also an opportunity to bring this message. Barbara was saying there would be some events, campaigns, so we have a possibility to spread the message and bring the topic forward. The other part I want to say is that we have seen that even circumstances are difficult, and we all know that corruption is widespread, but we have also seen good examples of different initiatives at different levels. So I would say that there is hope as well in this fight, and we should also all join that. And finally, just to come back to the concept of integrity, you know, that we are not only talking about lack of corruption, but we are talking about bringing the culture of some ethical values, no, the public interest, the honesty, professionalism, and that's also something that we can bring every one of us in our daily work in this water sector. So thank you very much to Win and to all the panelists and the speakers. And from our side, we are very happy to have been part of this and to be part of the Water Integrity Network. And we hope that many more will join in one way or another to widespread the report, as well as to take action with what can be done in all places. So thank you very much, and hope you have nice sessions ahead.